we're looking to do a lot of merch to create this almost experience where it feels like you're part of a sorority. You go to a college campus and there is like that little level of FOMO.
Well, hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. Super excited to talk to her today. She's a marketing expert. She's a VP of Business Development at Team SCG. She's merch girly, Savannah Dimitru. How are you?
Nailed it, Kirby. I am absolutely.
I was working on it in my brain the whole time. I'm like,
well, it's so funny when you have like that one thing that you're trying to like nail and you're like building up an intro, building it up, and then it's like, okay, here's my time to shine. I hope I don't butcher this. Lo and behold, you crushed it. But I am absolutely fabulous. I'm so excited to be here. This is an absolute honor and a half to be on this podcast with you, chit-chatting it up, talking shop, and all the things.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dive in today. So thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. All right. So one of the things that I know, and it's funny, little background baseball, whatever that term is. You and I had a conversation kind of setting up for this conversation last week, right?
And you can say that I was late. You can say that I had a scheduling error. You can call me out. Don't worry.
But we got a great opportunity to have a nice conversation in advance of this. And so this actually leads nicely into my first question, right? Because you've been involved in business development. It's one of the reasons I know you love marketing, which I kind of changed your title a little bit when I talked about that, because I know you love doing that, but you've been involved in business development. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain on what are some things that you believe separate good sales strategy from great sales strategy?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, sales strategy is just at face value, like to be honest here, like I am not the biggest like strategic thinker as it relates to like a typical sales brain. I'm not the person that's here doing like the really like thought out email sequences or like doing all of those like just different like automations and all those things. So
I love it.
I'm actually like very much so like feel it out. And with that, I think that what I think separates a good sales strategy, and I think that there is something to be said about like those automations. I appreciate AI and so much of the efficiency that it brings us, but I think sometimes it can lose a little bit of the human touch. Whereas like you get a lot of business development emails, or when you're in business development, you recognize all of the business development emails that come into your inbox where
100%.
There's, and it'll have your name in it. It'll have your title. It'll have your company. It'll have like something that is like air quotes personalized to you, but there's nothing personal about it whatsoever. So I think what could separate the good from the great is actually going forth and putting a human touch on that. And that's something that I always do. I wouldn't exactly say that I'm like the most efficient person by any means as it relates to like my business development sales strategy. Like I don't have all of like my canned responses out there just lined up ready to copy and paste. Like I have different things that I could go back to and reference, but a lot of my stuff is like being made bespoke. And I think that comes through, and I think people appreciate that.
So I do love doing the automation because I do know that the fortune is in the follow-up. But what you just said, it does resonate with me. I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk say that if you want to really scale, you do the unscalable really well. And so that totally makes sense to me. So I like that. You've got my wheels turning on that one. That's really good.
And I love Gary V. I mean, that's the guy, like, and I've read a few of his books, and like, I think that like what he really leans into is like kind of go out there, be yourself. It may not be like the most, not that it wouldn't be the best use of your time, but like face value, it may not seem like the best use of your time when you have tools in front of you that could like automate things. But as you go through the motions, as you go through the different reps, then you're able to understand where you can streamline moving forward and understand like where you can add very, very like personalized details, and then always look for those and try to recognize those like repeat opportunities.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's funny. I'm kind of living through that right now where we're like trying to refine our sales process as we go out. And it's like we're doing it all through me right now. And the reason we're doing it all through me is because I'm like, I'm going to figure out what doesn't work really fast. And then
Exactly.
once you create a process, then you can, people can do it. So I like that. Okay. How do you think branded merch can be best used to create meaningful brand experiences in today's world?
So when I think of like brand experiences, I always kind of think of it kind of dumped down to like an event of some sort. So whether that be like a virtual event, whether that be a trade show, whether that be even like an internal event, whether that be like a retreat, I don't know, it can mean a bunch of different things. But I look at the experience event itself as the entree, and I look at merch in particular as either the appetizer and or the dessert. So, I mean, I'm somebody who goes out and eats, at restaurants very, very regularly. If you follow my content, you'll understand. But like, I'm definitely a restaurant connoisseur. And I will say what I get most excited about when I'm at these restaurants and like what leaves oftentimes like the biggest impression is going to be the appetizer or the dessert, because it's the first thing that comes out normally, and you're either like really really hungry, or it really like builds the hype around the entree that's coming out. And normally at that time, like you're at least like somewhat satiated by the time you get to the the entree. And then the dessert, and I normally have like a nice chamomile or a mint tea along with whatever
Nice.
like the chef recommends. But it's like kind of the icing on the cake to like get you on your merry way and like put a bow on the experience. So that's kind of like, it's what you get excited about going into it, or it's the takeaway, it's the last impression, it's the thing that like leads you out the door.
Or both, right?
Or both. Or I mean, the
Right.
best ones are doing both, let's be real here.
Yeah. So it reminds me of an analogy I use all the time, whether it's about a speech or a sales call. And I always compare it to a live song, like a great live musician. Generally speaking, you remember how they start the song and how they end the song. The middle can be a little bit wonky, but man, if the finale or whatever it is great at the end of the song, you're like, oh, it was a great song, right?
Exactly.
And I love the analogy there.
And exactly, like it's one of those things too where it's like if you go to a concert and they like come out with the bangers and close with the bangers, then the middle part you kind of expect it to be good. You expect you want it to be good. Obviously you don't want a snooze fest, but and if it's really bad, then obviously you remember that. But also like there's redemption in the beginning and the end, and with those, like, those are opportunities in which you should strategically aim to get ahead of and figure out how you can create a lasting impression in both of those.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. That's great. All right. So, what are some trends you're seeing in the promotional space that you think marketers should be paying attention to right
So I'm honestly not the biggest like trends gal, because I think trends have just gotten so out of hand as it relates to like social media. There's a new trend every which day. Like it's
now?
a different aesthetic. It's like
100%.
just like a different like core in which people are like talking to. But I think some things that like I've really been noticing in particular would be collectibles. So people are enjoying being able to see consistency in something and figuring out how to build upon it and create it, like create a moment that you can expect, whether it be like at an event and you get a different, we'll call it a pin. We're just going to use a pin here because pins are great collectibles, take that one. But like you get a pin every different in week that you have, or you get a pin every year that you complete like at the job, or you get a pin when you get a new certification, or there's different ways that you can use it as a collectible that people get really really excited about, and then they're able to say, well, like, look at all of my X, Y, and Z's. And people get like really emotionally invested in it because it speaks to longevity, it speaks to investment, it speaks to a level of skill, whether it be just showing up or it being a little bit more deeper than that. But it becomes part of the culture that you're reinforcing through collectibles. Something else that I'm like recognizing a lot is obviously community. People just want community around these parts. I mean, same, I'm out here with my friend Natalie O'Leary creating the co-creative exchange CCX, and with that, like, we're looking to do a lot of merch to create this almost experience where it feels like you're part of a sorority. You go to a college campus and there is like that little level of FOMO of like, you see the girls like wearing their letters, and if you don't have your letters on, you're not a part of it. And
Yeah.
I know that can seem like a very like shallow thing, but like, people love to invest into not just being in a community, but being visibly a part of a community and visibly a part of something that they identify with, like, on a deeper level.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And I think being thoughtful about it, it reminds me, I heard Bobby Lee who say this years ago, but he said that one of the questions we have to ask ourselves when we're doing a merch campaign is, what do you want them to feel?
Hmm.
And I think that when you create a collectible or a collection like that, it's like, what do you want them to feel over time, and to build that feeling with your brand? I think that goes a little bit with what you're saying. And so that's
Oh,
cool.
that's spot on, where it's like, because it that, like, the feeling is the why you're doing it. You want to create the feeling. I always say start with the why rather than like the what or the who or whatever. Like, understand why you're overarchingly trying to do something. And 9 times out of 10, it's to make somebody feel something. But like, when you niche down more specifically into like the messaging and all that, then you're able to like suss out what is the product that is going to hit the nail on the head for that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. All right. Final question for you. So you were recently named to the PPAI Online 18, as was Natalie, as you referenced. So congrats. Let's start there.
Thank
Um,
you.
but what's that like when a list like this comes out and you're on it? What's that mean to be recognized as a leader as an influencer in this space?
So, I mean, obviously, like, my first immediate thoughts when it came out was like, wow, this is an honor. As I like really kind of processed it a little bit more, because I am somebody who like needs to process things, something that like comes at me. I'm oftentimes just like, I feel something in that moment, but then it takes me a moment to like really, really understand what it means to me and how I genuinely like feel about it. But um this in particular, what I realized is like, I was a passive consumer of like our industry for a very long time. So I saw a lot of the people on the Online 18 and I looked up to them from afar. And it's something that like I always kind of like secretly aspired to be a part of. And it's something that I've like taken the past year in particular to really lean into, to become merch girly, to really build out my space in the industry, because you know it takes a lot of showing up, and it takes a lot of showing up with like it takes a lot of audacity. We'll say
Yeah,
that it
I like
takes a
that.
lot of audacity to put yourself out there. And so, and not with any sort of guarantee, like, you're not owed anything even by just showing up. And so, like, as I reflected on it a little bit more, it was not only an honor, but it just is a huge accomplishment of, my consistency, my discipline. Additionally, like, I'm, aside from, just the visibility from it and the recognition, which is obviously amazing, I've made a lot of amazing friends. And I think going back to the community of it all is like, I'm seeking to continue to engage and develop and build out this community, this industry recognition on social media, because there is that massive, massive opportunity. It's one of those things that, like, again, obviously this is a really big honor, but there's still so much more that I'm looking to do, and still so much more that I'm looking to accomplish for our industry. And this is just the beginning.
I love it. That's cool. Well, again, I love what you're doing, and I said this to Natalie as well. Just to the idea of this the group that you are creating, where you are supporting other people the way that you are, is awesome. I love it. It brings me great joy. So kudos, and I appreciate you doing it. So
Thank you. I
yeah,
and like, I appreciate what you've been doing. Like you're somebody that I have been, admiring for a long time. I know I went up to you in Vegas and I'm like, hey Kirby, like I'm Savannah, and again, it takes audacity to do that. Whereas
Sure.
like to be able to, be on your podcast and have this conversation with you, like I feel much appreciation. It's very humbling. And, I appreciate your energy and being able to pick your brain on so many different things and to have like a connection with you now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun. And we will definitely do this again. This has been really fun and awesome stuff. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you for 2 weeks in a row. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like we have a standing meeting now.
That's right. It's pretty much this time, right?
Tuesdays at 3. Tuesdays at 3.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing it. We will do it again sometime. All right.
It's been a slice of heaven. Thanks for the hospitality, Kirby.
You bet. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.
Bye.